Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we're giving you guys our first impressions of the new releases from Spiritbox, Destruction, and Whitechapel. So, 3 pretty notable bands that we're checking out on the channel today, and I'm going to open it up with Tsunami Sea by Spiritbox. I believe this is their second full LP. Everything else has just kind of been EPs and singles. I'm not sure if we checked out Eternal Blue on the channel, but I
remember listening to it, but I don't think we covered it.
Recall there being good songs here and there. They did release an EP somewhat recently called The Fear of Fear, which I complimented for being a really good example of the range of the band's sound. I feel like no matter what part of this band you enjoyed, that EP had it, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't actually check out any of the singles before this album's release. And, you know, sometimes it's kind of a gamble when you do that. Because it's either like, oh man, I checked out the singles and I'm hype, or I didn't check out any singles, I'm getting the full album experience just completely fresh, right? And that's what I had. And I like that at the start of this record, it was hitting like a truck. Mm-hmm. You know, Fata Morgana, that one was pretty hard. And then Black Rainbow also had that. I liked that. So it got me thinking like, wow, this is kind of like a harder album from them. Mm-hmm. So then I was curious as to like, what is the direction this album's gonna take me, right? But then I kind of found that it started to just kind of like level out. I feel like after the first few tracks, it got to a point where it was just like what you would expect from this band.
It was almost like an early tease, and then it kind of just went, yeah, but no.
I mean, there was like a track or two near the end that kind of was like, oh wow, okay, they're doing something cool with this, like a Haven with Two Faces, or No Loss, No Love. But one of the issues I was kind of starting to find with a lot of the softer sound from this band is that it's not bad at all. It just kind of, to me, starts to feel repetitive. Because they create like this really nice, pretty atmosphere with their soft sound that they have either as just a chorus or in the full song. But it kind of feels like the same thing over and over. And I'm thinking, well, can we kind of like try to express the kind of emotional aspect of the band's sound in different ways to keep it fresh?
Fair, yeah.
Because I feel like, you know, these softer songs on this record basically do the same kind of thing that they were doing on the last record, and that was a few years ago. And that's kind of like the issue I was having. Yeah,
that's the thing. It's hard to judge that though, because that's a formula that they've reached, and they're connecting with people with that formula.
Oh yeah, 100%. So, like they got the bag with that. I respect that 1,000%.
Exactly.
I'm just saying, from my obviously subjective point of view, I'd like to see them express that differently. So for example, I was thinking to myself as I'm listening to this record, I'm like, it would be nice if, just random example, the last song was an acoustic track, just as a way to end the album. It would have been like, whoa, okay, that's a cool mix-up, a cool way to, after all the crazy stuff, and then this is how it ends. Mm-hmm. Something like that. So I'm not saying like just get rid of them, not at all. I think it's nice stuff. It's just I'd like to see it done a little differently just to keep it fresh as opposed to feeling repetitive. But generally, not bad. Some good tracks. Yeah. Not bad.
Yeah, I had a decent time listening. I'm not the biggest Spiritbox fan by any means. I always had trouble kind of really vibing with this band, but they do have stuff that I do like. And I think they're a talented band, and they got great musicianship and vocals and all that stuff. But yeah, when Fata Morgana comes on, and I'm like, okay, they're kicking this off heavy. And then the song's kind of flip-flopping back and forth between soft parts and heavy parts, and I kind of have trouble vibing with songs like that. I kind of want it to be one or the other. But that's kind of the nature of this band, and it's the nature of a lot of bands, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think Black Rainbow's a cool song, decent grooves, it has some nice bounce to it. The title track, I really liked that, some really nice vocal melodies. And No Loss, No Love, you also mentioned that. I think that was also a good song. It also had this bit of a techno thing in the bridge. I don't know if you caught that, but it was kind of a weird techno-y kind of bridge break kind of thing. But Poppy sounds great on vocals. I really like her style. If you know, you know. Sorry, Poppy, I'm gonna call her Poppy. Just the dichotomy of her clean vocals and her harsh vocals. She's just really good at both. She's really good at playing both sides and kind of interweaving them in and out and stuff like that. So big ups to Poppy for her performance on this album. But yeah, overall, it's just pretty much what I expected from this band, and my feelings about it are also as expected, where it's fine, I can listen to it, but would I ever want to put it on over something else? Probably not. I would never disrespect it, I would never say it sucks or anything like that, but it's just there's so much other stuff I'd rather listen to that this is always going to take a backseat to something.
Yeah.
Despite how interesting or good or whatever the musicianship might be, it's just not going to win over anything else in my books.
Fair enough. So moving on, Birth of Malice.
Destruction.
By Destruction.
Okay.
We reacted to at least 3 or 4 of the singles. I
remember 2.
Yeah, at least 2, at most possibly 4.
Okay.
Because I know they had been dropping singles for a while.
Yeah.
They dropped a bunch of singles for over a long period of time.
They dropped so many singles that Spotify called it an EP.
Yeah, they did, yeah. People were getting confused on that.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say it's funny. Album opens with Among Us. Okay. As soon as you hear it, you hear the sound effect that starts when you play around Among Us, okay, that's what we're in for. But that intro track's actually pretty cool. And it leads into the self-titled song well. And actually, I looked at the music video again for that self-titled song, and basically the intro is the same intro.
Yeah.
They attached it there. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And it makes sense. But I was finding myself listening to this album thinking oh, wow, this thing is cool, that thing's cool. I find there's a lot of modern thrash that tends to just kind of be yep, that's thrash, and there's nothing special about it. But I found this album, and I think I mentioned this during one of the reactions as well, it's cool that okay, there's different stuff going on here. There's different stuff to pace the album differently. There's different things that can stand out here. So, for example, a song like Scumbag Human Race, I like that it's a slower track, but it still has the sharp edge to it. And that's really cool, with a nice solo. I made a small note about a song called God of Gore. Just first thing that just popped into my mind, I'm like, wow, it starts out like it's Angel of Death or something. Which I thought was pretty funny. It also has a swung bridge, which I was not expecting. Whoa, we're going here now, that's cool. So, I think that overall it is a pretty fun thrash album. It didn't really blow my mind, but generally I found that it was better than the average thrash album that you find these days. So, if you like thrash and you like quality thrash, you'll find it with this record.
Yeah, I can kind of agree with that, except I feel like this is just the standard thrash album of modern time from a classic band, of course. It's an album that's fundamentally good, and as far as thrash goes, it ticks all the boxes, right? It does what it's supposed to do. It does what it's meant to do. If I'm in the mood for thrash, I could put this on and be like, yes,
yeah,
this is what I want. If I'm not in the mood for thrash, this is not something that's gonna win me over. That's kind of my stance on it. So my biggest takeaway from this album, as good as it might be, is that it's just like most thrash albums, just good riffs after good riffs after good riffs.
Yeah.
Okay? I can't really get behind the vocals too well. The drumming's pretty good. Actually, one of my favorite parts was the drums in No Kings, No Masters, which is probably the top track for me. Good riffs, but there's a sick drum roll near the end. It's like in the bridge section right before the solo happens. Love that. Really, really good. And, but yeah, all my notes are riff related, right? Because that's basically my biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing for me when I'm listening to a lot of thrash bands that are just straight up thrash, is the riffs are the biggest takeaway. That's it. So I don't know what else to say about it. Nothing really stood out to me amazingly or anything. I felt it was pretty standard, pretty safe, pretty paint by numbers, run of the mill, however you want to phrase it. But again, if you're a thrash fan, if that's what you feel like listening to, this is gonna tickle your fancy because it's ticking all the boxes and it's doing its job.
Exactly.
As a thrash album. So it's good, but I didn't think it was anything standout.
So, Hymns in Dissonance, Whitechapel. I bear the number 666 is the first thing you hear.
It's a gnarly line
from Phil Bozeman on this record. And I think it really sets the tone. Because the build-up in that first track, Prisoner 666, was sick, and just to hear him belt that, whoa, here we go. Now, I've said this multiple times. We've reviewed this band multiple times. They're on the Toe Tag list twice for their last 2 albums. And I've been saying, like that multiple times, I want to see this band take everything that they kind of learned and developed from those last 2 records and apply it to the original brutal sound that they're known for. And there are tracks on this record that made me feel like they did. And I was really happy to hear that. So a good example is the choruses from Prisoner 666. I feel like it gives the implication that it's like, oh yeah, this is the same guys that made those 2 albums, but they're applying that to the harder sound now. And I thought that was cool. You also have a track, there's an interlude called Ex Infernus. Pretty cool interlude as well. I liked the way that it led into Hate Cult Ritual, which also had a really cool mini guitar solo in the first verse. That was neat. Didn't really see it come back though. I was waiting for that to come back. It really didn't. But one thing I was kind of concerned about with this album though at first is that it's like, okay, I know the 2 singles we reacted to are like crazy, brutal ridiculousness, right? But I was wondering like, okay, I hope that they can still craft the album to be distinct with its tracks and not just be the crazy song over and over, right?
Yeah.
I felt like there were tracks that did stand out enough to be able to do that, but just based on one listen, it's like, well, I'm not sure if that's the kind of thing that it's like, just because I was looking for it really hard or if it really is that way. So, there's a song, The Abysmal Gospel. I like the intro of that one. And then when that song really goes, it totally is like, oh yeah, that's a circle pit opening up. 100%.
They just crank up the energy.
Exactly.
Crank up the tempo, crank up the energy, and just, go for it.
So I think that I like that they did a lot of kind of eerie stuff, and like a few tracks had these softer intros that built up into the song. I feel like those are elements of the last 2 records that are now applied to this. Overall, it is also still brutal as fuck.
Yeah.
Rip your face off, throw it in a furnace, just crank it, like just go nuts, right? And songs like the ones that they released as singles are still rad. Out of the 2 that we reacted to, I still really like A Visceral Wretch, especially with the pitch bend that happens on Phil's vocals. Love it. I did have fun with this album on the first listen.
Yeah, I like Hymns and Dissonance as far as the singles were out. That one still stands out to me. Just, it goes hard. Like, the whole album goes hard, but that song goes hard. But yeah, when you have an album like this that's as brutal as it is and as heavy as it is, it's harder to pick out things that stand out because the whole thing's just wall-to-wall brutality.
Exactly.
So does Whitechapel do a good job here at that? I think they do, but I don't think I've discovered it yet. And I think that's kind of where I am at this point, where I listened to this album and I was like, you know what? We were hyped for this. Other people were hyping it up. And I listened to it and I felt underwhelmed. I felt like maybe my bar was set a little bit high. It was good, but I listened to A New Era of Corruption previously, just the other day, just to kind of warm myself up and get, I know this is going to be the older school Whitechapel. I want to, refamiliarize. And that's peak Whitechapel to me.
Yeah.
New Era of Corruption, that's peak Whitechapel. A lot of people say this is Exile, whatever. Disagree, whatever. And super stick album, right? I listened to it again and I was like, holy crap, yes, this is all the fucking good glory shit. So when I put this album on, that's what I'm hoping for that feeling again, and I just didn't get it. Again, it could be one of 2 reasons that I can think of. Number 1, it's just not there. It just doesn't have it. Reason number 2, it's too early. It's a first impression. I need to become more familiar with it first and learn the songs and let these parts speak out to me as I listen to the album more. With that said, yes, a few things did stand out to me. Ex Infernus is track number 5, an interlude right in the middle of the album. Nicely placed, good length. It's basically like Mongolian throat singing with some like war drums or something like that. Just cool stuff. It's not too long. It's got some interesting stuff to listen to. That's what I want in an interlude track. Okay, that's what I want. Simple as that. Hate Cult Ritual was a cool song. A lot of people probably won't know this reference, but there's a rapper called Brother Lynch Hung, and he's got a song called MDK, which stands for Murder, Death, Kill. But there's a part in that song which says, murder, death, kill, we hungry. And then I can't remember what the line is in Hate Call Ritual, but there's a part where they say that, and it kind of reminded me of MDK. So I thought that was kind of cool to get that weird reference from a death rapper. Yeah, you mentioned Abysmal Gospel. That's a sick song. Nothing is coming for any of is the ending track. And what?
Is it not Nothing is Coming for Any of Us?
Is that what it is? Because it cut off on mine. I wasn't sure if it was supposed to cut off or not.
Yeah, it's like Nothing is Coming for Any of Us.
Man, okay, I wasn't sure. I thought I looked at it, but anyways, I thought it was one of those things that just cuts off, like he died in the middle of his sentence or something. Any of. Okay, so Nothing is Coming for Any of Us, I guess is the name of the track. Yeah, cool ending track. And my favorite part that I noticed about this track is during the bridge, there's some really cool drumming going on. It's just got this nice steady double bass, a lot of ghost notes going on, which is always cool, leading up to the solo. And then I like how it kind of fades down into the outro, which just ends up being both guitars just wailing away for several bars until it ends.
Yeah, they just, basically the second half of that track is they just jam it out, and I like that.
And they're not like soloing, it's not like shredding or anything like that. It's just, they're like, there's a lead and there's a rhythm, and they're both just playing with each other, and it just goes on for a few bars and then it just ends.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that was effective. That was good. It was a nice way to solemnly close the album. I like that. So, yes, there's good stuff in this album. Yes, there's stuff that stood out to me. But overall, my thought was uninspired and a little bit let down because it didn't give me the feelings that my favorite Whitechapel stuff normally gives me. With that said, what are we doing?
We're going to review Hymns and Dissonance.
Review it.
And we're going to listen to this album non-stop throughout the entire week. And we'll be back to give you guys our final review to see if it can stand the test of time. Can Whitechapel be 3 for 3 with new releases on this channel?
That'd be crazy.
Tune in next week to find out. And that's all we got for you guys today. Remember to like the video if you liked it. Tell us in the comments below, what are your thoughts on the 3 albums that we spoke about in today's video, or anything else that you're listening to. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say. And subscribe if you guys are new. I'm TV Fish.
I'm by myself.
We'll see you guys later.